guys, Shane here with One Shift at a Time, and can you believe it? It's here. It's the final power rankings of the season. There are going to be a couple games going on this week, but most are one or two besides the Flames and the Canucks, and I don't know if that's going to warrant a power rankings, but I'll do something definitely. We're going to start in the East as always, and number 8, it's going to be almost as always, the Buffalo Sabres. They managed to get their spot back, and they're holding on to it right at the end of the season. They went 2-2, but so did a lot of teams as they went down the stretch. I don't really want to pick on them. Not much to be said that hasn't already been said. So yeah, the Sabres, it's going to be some changes. Already has been some, there's going to be some more. And number 7, we're going to have the Philadelphia Flyers. As I said, the bottom 3 teams all went 2-2. So this really could have gone anyway, but what kind of tips it over the edge is the total disappointment of this season, both by preseason expectations and by how they were doing at the beginning of the season. It is just quite not where anyone thought they'd be, I don't think. So that's where they're going to have to sit. Then we're going to go to number 6. We have the New Jersey Devils. They also, again, they went 2-2, but they will finish off the Flyers again, the season against the Flyers, so they have one more chance to go against them to see how, if that changes anything. But as I said, I don't think it'll be enough to change the power rankings, just having one more game. Number 5, the Rangers. They definitely put on a good push at the end of the year, and I think that is very telling that they're going to have quite a good season coming up. I think there's a lot of hype, and duly, there should be hype. Panarin's been playing amazing. Lafreniere is starting to play well. Zibanejad has also been kicking butt. So I think all these players are just going to get better, and yeah, New York, the Rangers are going to be scary. Number 4, we do have the Islanders. They have also been dropping off lately. They were consistently fighting for first in this division, and now they're quite right at the bottom. They have clinched, and they are definitely going to make it. I believe they have a game against Boston, so they could win that to catch Boston, but Boston also has another game after that, so it's going to be very tough for them to catch them for third. And in number 3, we do have those Boston Bruins, and they also had a interesting week. There was a lot of 2-2s this week in this division, but they lost to New Jersey and to the Rangers again tonight. But other than that, they were just dominating. They also have a game in hand, but it is against the Capitals, like we talked about there. So it is a tough game that they have extra, but I think the one against the Islanders is definitely winnable. And yeah, I don't see the Islanders catching them for third, but hey, anything's possible. Number 2, we have those aforementioned Capitals, and they do have that last game, as we said, against the Bruins. So even if the Bruins won both their games, and the Capitals lost to the Bruins, of course, they would still have more wins on the season, which is the tiebreaker. So they're pretty guaranteed. They're locked in to second place. There's no way that the Bruins can catch them. Even if they, I think they're going to want to win that game to really drive it home, though. And number 1, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, they did start this week a little rough there. Lost 7-2 to their state rivals, their state rivals in the Philadelphia Flyers. But then they came right back and beat them 7-3 the next night. And then they also scored 8 the next night against Buffalo, and then they finished their season off with a 1-0 victory over Buffalo. So the Penguins are done, and they're definitely in first, and this is going to be a scary team. They really have turned it around, going on that big streak, and then now another 3-game winning streak to end off the season. Doesn't look like they took their foot off the gas, so it's going to be interesting in the playoffs. Alright, see you in the next one. Alright, here we are in the Central, and man, this division has been the biggest surprise, both in positive ways and negative ways. And I think we have to start off with the negative ways. In the number 8 spot, it is the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is not the season people were expecting at the beginning of this season, that's for sure. This team is just not supposed to be the worst team in the division, yet here we are. They didn't do so bad this last 4. They split 2. They won 2 against Nashville, or split with Nashville and then split with Detroit, 1 win each. But that's not saying much. This team is just going to get stripped in the offseason, I think. This team is the biggest disappointment in the whole league, I believe. Number 7, we have the Detroit Red Wings. And this team has done a lot in the last couple weeks. They've really turned it around. They're winning some games. There is some positivity here, and that is such a drastic contrast to what is happening in Columbus. So it's nice to see. I think the Detroit Red Wings are happy where they are this year, but there's going to be a lot of pressure for them to end the drought and make the playoffs next year. Number 6, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and they've just had this weird roller coaster where at the beginning of the season they were playing very well, and their old stars were playing very well, and it's like, oh, maybe it's not quite time for the rebuild yet, and then now they've sunk back to where I think most people expected them. So they had a nice ride. I think the Blackhawk fans appreciated that, but they are probably going to be in the rebuild phase coming up quick. Number 5, we do have the Dallas Stars. This is another big disappointment because they, of course, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and when you get that close to winning the Cup, you want to at least be in the dance next year, so not even making the playoffs has got to be a bit of a kick to the teeth. And it's sad for players like Pavelski, which are probably not going to have any more chances, really. Number 4, Nashville. Nashville is in the playoffs. That's great. That's such a great thing to see. I think they play better hockey in the playoffs, and they really better because they've kind of been stumbling coming into the playoffs. I believe they're loss, win, win, loss, win. So kind of playing some 500 hockey, which is not really what you want. They do have, I believe, one more game here, and it is coming up against the team they will meet in the first round, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes. So we'll see if they can repeat tonight's success, and yeah. And then, yeah, we do have the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're going to stay in that third place position. Again, just kind of stumbling into the playoffs. I mean, it's been assured that they're making the playoffs for a while. But we've talked about this before. When they won the President's Trophy, they got swept. In the last season, they didn't do so well, and they won the Cup. So this might actually be better and in their game plan. But we are going to get an awesome battle of Florida officially to start her off, even though there is one more game. I think Florida really wants to win, or kind of almost needs to win this last game to set up this playoffs match, because if they get swept or in these last couple games before the playoffs by Panthers, I think that kind of momentum will swing into Florida when they play at home to face the Lightning. Number 2, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, and they do slip out of the top spot. Mainly due because they're on another 2-game losing streak, and they've been losing to Nashville, which is of course their opponent. So this could be a very exciting first round series between Nashville and Carolina, and I think it could honestly go either way. That's going to be really exciting. Number 1, we have the Florida Panthers, and they're riding a 5-game winning streak again this season. This, as I said, has to be the biggest positive surprise of any team in the league. I don't think anyone saw them making the playoffs, never mind hosting playoff games, and it's going to be, as I said, the Battle of Florida. So looking forward to that, first time ever in the playoffs. It's going to be awesome. Alright, and here we are in the West. Alright, and here we are in the West, and unfortunately this is probably one of the worst divisions for 3 teams. The 3 teams in this division are just not competitive with the rest, and it really makes the top 3 look insanely good. I think they're really good, but we're going to have to see during once the playoffs start how they play against other teams in the league to see if this is actually a very weak division or if California is just crumbling. That is going to start us off with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, the Anaheim Ducks, who are definitely not mighty, who are the worst team in the West, that's for sure. They have only 1 win in their last 5 games to close out the season. I don't think people expected them to be this bad again, and this is another team where I see a lot of off-season changes taking place. Number 7, we have the San Jose Sharks. Again, just horrible play. They started okay. They started with COVID, then they weren't allowed to play at home, so it was a rough start. Then they started to play decently in the middle, but then they've gone off the cliff again. They've also only won 1 game in their last 5, and their next games, I believe, are against Colorado, and it's not looking good. I think it's very tough for the fans, especially because they were a playoff contender just 2 years ago, and now they're a basement dweller, and that's a tough pill to swallow. Number 7, no, number 6, the best of the best of the worst, is the Los Angeles Kings, and they did beat the Coyotes 2 games, and then they lost to Colorado twice, but only by 1 goal each game. So there are again some positives. But again, this is a team that was not supposed to be this bad. So these 3 California teams are just really underperforming. Number 5, just outside of California, in Phoenix, we have the Arizona Coyotes, who again, this has to be one of the most frustrated fan bases. Just watching their team almost get the playoffs every single year, and then have some positive off-season moves, and yet again they just get back into the same situation again. Super frustrating. Number 4, we have the St. Louis Blues, and they've made it back into the dance. They of course got ousted last year by the Vancouver Canucks, and I think most people agree was a pretty big upset. So it is good to see them back, and they're again only 1 season removed from their Stanley Cup win. So let's see what they can do once they get into the playoffs. And then at number 3, we have another one that got to be one of the most positive stories in the whole league, and that is the Minnesota Wild. I think a lot of people expected them to be on the outside looking in. Maybe in 5th position. I don't think it's a huge shock that they're doing this well, but it is a huge shock that they may actually get home ice advantage. They are a game behind, and Colorado, of course, is playing some good hockey, so it will be tough for them to catch up and get that home ice advantage, but again, anything is possible. Number 2, we do have the Colorado Avalanche, and this has got to be one of the scariest teams to be facing in the playoffs. They have just so much depth and so much scoring, and their goaltending is playing well. This can be said for the number 1 team too. So again, it's just going to be whether this is something that they were able to do against teams in their own division, or if this is something that they can do against all the other teams. I would love to see Colorado and the Vegas Golden Knights go against each other, but I don't want to look past the Wild. I think the Wild have a really good chance. That's going to bring us to number 1, the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know that St. Louis has as good of a chance. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see another big upset. I mean, hey, if the Wild and St. Louis Blues were going on in the next round, that would be amazing too. I love hockey, and I love all the different combinations. But it will be pretty awesome to watch Vegas, as always. This is the most successful team, most successful start to a franchise in the history of the NHL. By far. Alright guys, and we're finally off to the north for the last time, and it is gonna be the Vancouver Canucks. As usual, it seems to be that's their spot. And just 1 win in their last 7 games is gonna put them there, and they unfortunately still have 7 games remaining, which is gonna push them past next week. But again, I'm not gonna do power rankings just for 2 teams. I think this has just gotta be very embarrassing. Quite a fall from grace from being the team that went the farthest out of all the Canadian teams in the playoffs last year to not even having a chance this year. It's got to be pretty sad. Number 6, we have the Winnipeg Jets. They're in the playoffs, but this is just some horrible play. They only have 1 win in their last 8 games, and that's going to drop them all the way down in the 6th, because the power rankings is on your current performance, and if they go into the playoffs playing like this, they're not going to have a good time. They are definitely not against the Edmonton Oilers or the Toronto Maple Leafs. Either one of them will just decimate them with playing like this. Number 5, we have the Calgary Flames, and they are just holding on by the little scraps there, because they actually still have a chance. They would need to win all the rest of their games. One of them is against Ottawa, who has given them lots of troubles this whole season. Then the rest are against Vancouver. So it's possible. They would also need their help from their provincial rivals, the Oilers, who would need to beat the Canadiens both their games, because the Flames would then have more wins than the Canadiens, and they'd have the exact same amount of points, so the Flames would make the playoffs. Any way that Montreal gets a point, or if Calgary has a game where they don't get 2 points, it's all over. Number 4, we have those Montreal Canadiens, and there again, they won those 3 games, but they're back on a 3-game losing streak, and they got their 2 last games coming up against the Oilers. I mean, they've done good against the Oilers in the past, but if they don't win one of these games, they're going to go in again, just like Winnipeg, on this massive big losing streak, and I think they're going to get easily handled by either Toronto or Edmonton, as we talked about with the Jets. And then we're on to number 3, and I'm sure some of you guys must be thinking, man, he's missed a team, but Wow, the way this team is playing right now, they're playing the third best hockey in the division, and that's the Ottawa Senators. Unbelievable, but here it is. They've won 8 of their last 10, and just seeing this young core get it together. Stützle got his first hat trick tonight, and it's just for a team that is doing so poorly in the standings. There's such good vibes and good feelings about them. I'm really excited to watch them next year. Number 2, we have the Edmonton Oilers, and they're just playing some extremely good hockey coming down the stretch. They had that one bad game. Koskinen, I don't know what happened. He let 4 goals in on 4 shots. That can't happen. They need a backup goalie who's going to step up and make some saves when they need it. They can't ride Smith all the way, though he's playing amazing. And that McDavid guy, he's kind of alright, eh? 100 points in 53 games. Just absolutely insane. The guy just is an absolute beast, and he's surrounded by some really amazing players. I expect Edmonton to go on a good run this year. Number 1 is Toronto, and Toronto has clinched the division for only the 2nd time since 1968. That's just crazy. Not a lot of good memories in that time for Toronto in the playoffs either, so let's hope they can turn it around this season. I think they have a really good chance. I think they have a very good team, and I would be surprised if it's anything besides an Edmonton-Toronto semifinals here. Thanks again. I really appreciate you guys watching all these power rankings this year. I'm probably going to do another one, like an average of all the power rankings throughout the season, and then we're going to do some playoff stuff. I've got lots of ideas for the playoffs, so please like this video, subscribe, share it around. Anything you can do, as always, helps me a ton. You guys have a great one. We'll see you in the next episode.